Hey team, how's it going? I'm Corey. Thanks for tuning in with me. Today, I've got something fun that we launched this week. So this week, me and some of my friends launched Bytes, these interactive code review challenges. Let's go check out the first one. So this is the first Byte live on my site. You can get to it at coreyja.com and then click on Bytes and level 00. And so these are interactive code review challenges, and we're going to do a little wrap-up video to talk about this one. So this was level 00, and if you click start question here, you will be greeted with, there we go, with the code review app. So here is the PR description, what I'm trying to merge in, and the idea here is that there are two bugs hiding in this diff, and you're supposed to find them and comment on them, and then you get a score and you end up on the leaderboard. So we're going to run through this challenge a little bit. I'm going to chat through some of the things. I'm going to chat through the two bugs I did mean to hide, and then chat through a few things that have been pointed out to me by friends in the meantime. So this is a simple CLI to-do app, and there are two commands available. You can add a task to add a new task to the list, and you can do list to list all the tasks. The requirements are adding a task should append it to a file named todo.txt, and listing tasks should read the file and print out each task with an index. So if you do to-do CLI add by groceries, it'll say added task by groceries. And then if you list it, you'll see by groceries. And if you add another task like clean the house, and then you list it again, you'll see by groceries and clean the house with their indexes all printed out. So we look at the diff, and this is like a diff from scratch, so there's no removals here. We're just adding things. So we add a workspace, a cargo.toml with a workspace for the to-do CLI. And then the actual cargo.toml for our to-do CLI lists one dependency. We're installing clap with the derive feature flag. So this is the main.rs file, and that is the entirety of our code here. We don't have any code spread out to any different files. So the first thing that we have here is our CLI struct, which has one field called command, which is the command's enum. And this is where we have our two commands. We either have the add command or the list command. And we use clap, the dependency, and its derived to be able to parse our CLI arguments into these structs. So the command has one field for the string, and list doesn't take any arguments. So in our main function, we parse the CLI into the CLI variable, and then we match on the command. If it's the add command, we take the task that you gave us in the CLI and call add task. And then for the list command, we just call list tasks. So in add task, we take the task as a reference to a string. We open our file, creating it if necessary. This is the todo.txt file. We just bail out if we couldn't open the file, and that's probably okay for this example. We write line our task to the file, again bailing out if we didn't succeed in writing to the file. And then we do the print line like we saw in the requirements. We do added task and then the task. That's what the print line is, added task and then the task. And then when we list tasks, we have a variable called content that we fill by reading the string of todo.txt. So we read the file to a string. And again, we bail out if we couldn't read the file. If it's empty, we print no tasks found. And if it's not empty, we loop through them, getting both the index in the array, or it's really a vector or an iterator that we're enumerating over, and then the task. And we print them out with the index and the task next to each other, but separated by a colon, trying to emulate what we see in the description up here. And so there are two bugs hiding in here, or there are two bugs that I meant to hide in here, and we'll talk in just a few minutes about some stuff that I didn't mean to hide, but has been pointed out to me since. So the first one that we meant to hide here, and if you want to pause the video now to try it for yourself, you can go to coreyja.com and do this byte for yourself before continuing. But the first bug is here in add task. When we go to create this file, we don't add another option here for append true. Just like there's create true, there's another option for append true. So we need to add .append true, or else we will overwrite the file, overwrite the file each time instead of adding to it. And we can add that comment here. And then if we scroll up, you will hopefully see There we go. One of the 2 bugs caught, and we got 100 points for that. So that's what you're supposed to see when you find one of the bugs. And then the next bug that we meant to hide is in this list tasks. We go through our iterator here from lines. I said vec earlier. It's not actually a vector. It's just an iterator. So we go over our iterator and we call enumerate, which gives us the index and then the task, the item from the iterator. But index here is 0 indexed, like most things are in my programming experience, at least. I know it's not in literally all programming, but most of it that I'm familiar with. But if we look at the examples, they're all 1 indexed, like we might expect for something more user-facing. So the second bug here is that we don't want to print just the index. We want to print index plus 1 to account for the 0 indexing of enumerate. And there we go. We can scroll up again and give the system a second to catch up. And there we go. We got 2 out of 2 bugs caught. So from here, we can submit the challenge and you can type in your GitHub username. I'll type in mine. I am going to end up on my own leaderboard for this, but I'm going to delete myself in just a second so I don't, so it doesn't make the leaderboard look a little silly. But now if we check it out, I should end up on the leaderboard, and look at that. I ended up in 3rd place on my own challenge. So maybe I'll even leave it. It's a little funny. Yeah, so now let's take a look at some of the things that I didn't mean to hide, but are definitely here and made things a little more confusing or a little harder than they needed to be. So most of these were pointed out by my friend XD009642. I'll have a link to their GitHub profile in the description here. But they found a few things, some of which I fixed already and some which we will just think about for future bytes. So the first one that they found is I was missing a closing quote. I was missing a closing quote in the description. So that one I just live edited in and fixed. Thank you for catching that for me. And another thing that they caught, when they first looked at this, they were really looking for like compile time errors or things that might not compile in the Rust or lead to issues that way. So they thought initially that this clap parse probably needed an unwrap because it was going to return a result. But this code does parse or does compile all the way and does run. So next time I'm definitely going to add a little call out to the description saying that. I don't think it's as fun to catch compiler errors. We have the Rust compiler to do that for us. So I'm going to add a disclaimer next time that like makes sure that everyone knows that the code compiles and runs so people don't search for things like that. And then some things that they caught that are like bugs or at least things that are underspecified, if nothing else. I don't specify in the example usage what should happen if the file's empty. So what we're doing right now is if the file's empty, we print out no tasks found. And arguably that could be a bug, right? It wasn't specified. Maybe an empty output is better if we're going to pipe it somewhere or to use it in other commands. So that was something that was like kind of underspecified. I need to do a little better job of specifying the description really, really well. But the thing they found that like is probably definitely a bug that I just totally didn't think about here is what happens if the task that you specify in the CLI contains new lines. Then what happens is we're just going to write it to the file without doing any escaping. And then when we read it back and split by lines, we probably are going to split one task with a new line in it into 2 separate tasks. And that's like definitely a bug that I didn't even think about or account for here. So it was really cool to have someone find bugs that I purposefully tried, like to find bugs in something that I purposely tried to hide bugs in, but totally different bugs that I didn't even think about. So thanks for catching those. And that just means for next time, I'm going to have to stare at the code a little more and make sure it's super duper bug free before we release the next byte. And on that note, if you enjoyed this and want to play along on the next byte, they're going to be coming out on Mondays if I can keep up with the schedule. So next Monday, there should be a new byte released on my blog. And then I'm going to do these wrap-up videos on Friday. So next Friday, you should expect another one of these wrap-up videos coming at you live. So if you want to follow along, the best way to probably follow along is to go to my blog at coreyja.com and click on newsletter over here and scroll down and enter your email. You'll get an email every time I release a new byte. I think I'll send a newsletter each Monday for those. And then if you are following along, you'll also be able to see the videos coming out on YouTube on Fridays. So I hope you enjoyed this video and this byte. I had a lot of fun making it, and I had a lot of fun watching the solutions you guys gave, and I'm excited to see how the leaderboard continues to grow. So with that, I'm going to get out of here and start working on next week's byte. but I hope you join us to play along. Thanks. See you soon. Bye.